Hey guys, thanks for joining me again. And in this video, we're going to be talking about administrator privileges in the terminal. So I mentioned briefly in the previous video about file permissions, and we really didn't jump in. And so I've created a file in a location that I don't have access to. The file I've created is it's a etc, it's in the etc directory, and it's just called file. So if I change directory into etc and then type L, we can scroll here. It's alphabetical, and so we can see file right here. That's the file I created. Let's say I want to edit it. And we're going to be going into Nano a lot in the future, but right now I'm going to be using Nano, and in order to edit this file, it's a terminal application for text editing. So I'm going to type Nano and then in the current directory open file. And this is going to open this file that I've written, which is great. I can view it. But what happens when I try to write to it? I'm going to hit Control O, which is the command to save this file, and I'm going to type Enter. And it's going to give me an error warning that I don't have permission to do this. And so if I click Control X, it's going to ask me if I want to save changes, so I'm going to say no because I can't. Well, then how do we edit that file that I've just created? We need to use administrative privileges in order to be able to edit that file. Now there's two ways to do this. The first one is to type sudo before the command. And what this means is super user do. It's an abbreviation. Super user is a term in Linux that identifies your privilege level. So super user do allows you to make changes to files and perform administrative tasks for this one command. So if I type sudo nano file, that will let me edit the file. So now I can type test343, hit Control O, and then enter, and we see a success message, wrote 2 lines. So I can now exit this, and it has been saved. Now, what if I don't want to retype the entire command? So if I type nano file, try to write to it, it will fail because permissions denied. I haven't run this specific command as sudo. So I'm going to exit. What you actually need to do is type sudo and 2 exclamation marks. So the 2 exclamation marks basically mean run the previous command. So by prepending that with the term sudo, it will rerun the previous command as sudo. What if you have a lot of things to do and you don't want to write sudo before every single command? So now, what if you have a lot of things to do and you don't want to type sudo in front of every single command? You can actually do this, and that's the su command. And what this means is switch user. So generally, you type switch user, or su, followed by the name of the user account you want to switch to. What we're going to do is type sudo su. And this is going to change us to the root account. And as you can see, the name prepending the computer's name, so this is the computer name, and this is the name of the current user I'm acting as, which is root. And the root user has 100% control of everything. So now I can type nano file and add a new line. Control O and Control X to close it. Now, when I want to switch back over to my user account, I'll type su space nick. and that's going to get me back into my user account. So basically, if you get a permission error running a command, you might need to run that command as sudo. For instance, if you're editing files in any directory other than your home directory, you're not going to have permission to those files. And we'll go over in the future how to get permission to files. But for right now, for all intents and purposes, these instances is when you would run your command prepended with sudo. If you have a lot of these commands to run and you don't want to type sudo before every command, just type sudo space su. So thank you guys for watching this video. We're going to be continuing command line in the next video as well. And again, we're going to be doing it for quite a while, so I hope you guys are enjoying this. Hey guys, thanks for joining me again. In this video, we're going to be going over the package manager of Ubuntu, or how to manage the packages that you have installed or that you want to install. So how we do this is through a program called apt-get. So in terminal, if you type apt-get, that is the program that we are going to use to install applications. If you follow this with the term install, this is the action that we want apt-get to perform. And then the file that we want this action performed on is, for this video, going to be Bluefish, which is a text editor that I don't want installed, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to install it. Now, if you hit enter, you're going to notice it's going to tell you that you do not have permission to use that program. So again, this is where sudo comes into play. So sudo bang bang, hit enter. Then it's going to show us that, well, for me, for this system, it says these weren't automatically installed and we don't need them. Down here we see the following extra packages will be installed, and it's going to install Bluefish data and Bluefish plugins, which are two different packages that Bluefish needs. And it will also tell us how much will be downloaded and how much space will be used on the disk after the application is installed. So we're going to type Y for yes and hit enter. Now it's going to connect to the repositories of Ubuntu. So while it does that, I'm going to explain what that means. So Ubuntu has repositories set up that have indexes and package files, and it has indexes of those package files. So this allows us to run the command apt-get and install packages from the repositories. Now there are some programs that aren't in the repositories, and we'll go over those in a moment. For the sake of this specific action, Bluefish is in the repositories, and I knew the name of the package that I wanted to install before I ran the command. So I could just type sudo apt-get install Bluefish, and this installs Bluefish to my computer. And when this completes, I can now hit the super key and type in Bluefish. And it hasn't found it yet. I forgot there is a bug with this version of Ubuntu where the dash isn't always updated. If I type in Bluefish from the terminal, we can see that I've got Bluefish installed. So that's how you install programs. Now, let's say we want to remove a program. We do that in a very similar way. I'm going to type sudo apt-get remove Bluefish. So with this command, we're using the program apt-get. The action we're performing is remove, and the action is the package that action is performed on is Bluefish. I'm going to type Y for yes. I do want to uninstall this. And it's going to uninstall the package. What if we want to install a program and we're not sure of the exact name of it? So let's say we want to search through the repository and we're looking for something specific. What we'll do is type apt-cache search and then the program we want followed by an asterisk. And this means it's going to find anything that has the word bluefish in it. I can type apt-cache search GIMP. And it's returning a lot of stuff. Now, we can find it in here, GIMP. Let's say we want to see if we've got something installed. We're going to use apt-cache again. We're going to type policy as the action, and then GIMP. We see that this is the version we have installed, 2.8.14, and the official repositories contain this version, 2.8.14, which means you can see here we've installed GIMP through the repositories. Now additionally, you could go to GIMP's website, I believe it's gimp.org, and you could download an installer file from there. So if you're on an older version of Ubuntu that doesn't have version 2.8 of GIMP in the repositories, you can actually manually install that package file. And we're going to go over that in a moment. So if I type apt-cache policy bluefish, which I've just removed, we'll see that we have none installed, but we can install version 2.2 from the official repositories. What if we want to install a package that is not in the repositories? So if I type apt-cache search Chrome, I'll see a lot of Chrome, but I'm not seeing a package called Chrome. I see Chromium browser. That's the open source version of Chrome, and we can install that by typing sudo apt-get install Chromium browser. But let's say I want the actual Google Chrome. It's not under Chrome. It's not under Google Chrome either. We're going to see that it wasn't able to access that package. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Firefox, because that's the browser you're going to have pre-installed on Ubuntu. You are going to have Firefox. It doesn't come with another browser pre-installed. However, you can install other web browsers. Now, if I wanted to install Midori, which is a web browser, I can check, is there a version that I can install through the repositories? And there is. I don't want to use Midori though, I want to use Chrome. So what we're going to do is go to chrome.google.com, and when the page loads, it's going to allow us to download Chrome. So I'm going to go to download for personal computers. And this is automatically picked up that we're on Linux. So if you click download Chrome, it's going to give you 4 options. A 32-bit .deb file, a 64-bit .deb file, and then also 32 and 64-bit RPM files. On Linux, you're not going to be using RPM files. That is the package manager for Red Hat, and so that's a different Linux version altogether. With Debian Ubuntu distributions, and in the first or second video I explained how Ubuntu was forked from Debian. So Ubuntu uses the same package manager as Debian, which is .deb files, or apt package manager. So apt package manager works with .deb files. So we're going to download the 64-bit deb file because we're working on a 64-bit system and a 64-bit installation. We're going to click that accept button. Then I'm going to save the file. Now, once the download completes, we can change directory into our home downloads directory. We can use the ls command to see this file. And so how we're going to install it, I mean, you could open up the file manager, come into the downloads folder and double click this, and it's going to open it up with Software Center, which is Ubuntu's graphical package manager app. But we're not going to do that because we're focusing on command line. So how you install it from command line is by running the following command. So we're going to go sudo dpkg-i for install, and then we're going to give it the file path. Now we could go absolute and type home nic downloads. We're not going to do that because that gets really old and boring really quick. We're going to type in the current directory, look for google-chrome-current_amd64.deb and hit enter. And it's going to unpack this Debian package, and it's going to install Chrome. And again, it's not going to pick up the application there, but we can type Chrome, I believe. No? What about Google Chrome? There we go. And then we can launch Chrome because it is installed. Now, what we can do with the package manager, it doesn't only allow us to install and remove programs, it allows us to keep things updated. So let's say that a new package version of one of our applications has been pushed to the repositories. We can actually type sudo apt-get upgrade, and this is going to upgrade any packages that have new versions in the repositories, and we have older versions than that on our system. So we're going to hit enter. And a little note on sudo is that when you run it once, I believe in that session in the terminal, you don't have to put your password in every time, just the first time. So here we see that we have 16 kilobytes of upgrades to do. So let's go look at that. So it looks like my KDE installation is upgradable. Good stuff. So I'm going to type Y and hit enter. Now it's going to upgrade these existing packages. So we covered a lot in this video. I want to just take a couple minutes here at the end of the video and go over what we learned. So basically, the package manager of Ubuntu and Debian-based distributions is aptitude. And we use that through a program called apt-get. Now, when we use apt-get, we can give it specific actions to carry out, like installing programs and removing them. We can also add repositories, which we're going to go over in the future, but we can add repositories that aren't the official Ubuntu repositories, and that will give us access to more applications. We can use the apt-cache program to search through available applications and to check the installed versions against new versions in the repositories, and we can see programs that we've already got installed by using the policy action in the apt-cache program. And we can also use dpkg application to install local .deb files. So that lets us install packages that aren't in the official Ubuntu repositories and aren't in other repositories as well. So we can manually download files, make sure the architecture is for your hardware. Make sure if you're on a 64-bit system that you're installing 64-bit applications. And also we don't use RPM. So RPM installer files are for Fedora and Red Hat variants. So typically with Ubuntu, always with Ubuntu, we're going to use .deb files, or we're going to use the apt-get and apt-cache programs to manage our software. And then the final piece is upgrading the software. So periodically, different package maintainers or developers will release new versions of their software into repositories, whether that is the official Ubuntu repositories or if it's third-party repositories that they manage specifically for their application that you have added to your system. And so using sudo apt-get upgrade allows us to upgrade packages that are available for upgrade. So thanks for watching this video. In the next video, we're going to be going over more command line.